1/19/2016, and it's a Tuesday. I'm going to start with, where is the natural resource located? I've chosen to do oil. Oil in Canada. Which consumers use this natural resources? These are the top oil consumers. United States is 20.5 million barrels. MB is million of barrels per day. China uses 6.5 MB per day. Japan uses 5.4 MBs per day. Germany uses 2.6 MBs per day. Russia 2.6, 2.3 for India, Canada 2.3, Brazil 2.2, South Korea 2.1, and 2.0 for France. Now, which products are made using the natural resource oil? Since there are over 6,000, I'm going to do 5. The main ones are gas, diesel, ink, and clothing, and motor oil, and ballpoint pens. The next one is, does the natural resource have to be changed or processed before it can be used by people or machines? Oil refinery. An oil refinery or petroleum refinery is an industrial process plant where crude oil is processed and refined into more useful products such as petroleum, naphtha, gasoline, diesel fuel, asphalt base, heating oil, kerosene, and liquefied petroleum. Oil refineries are typically large, sprawling industrial complexes with extensive piping running throughout, carrying streams of fluids between large chemical processing units. In many ways, oil refineries use much of the technology and can be thought of as type of chemical plants. How does the country regulate the gathering or use of oil? They keep track of who buys oil. That is how they regulate the gathering of or use of oil. How is the environment impacted by the use of natural resources? In this case, it's oil. The environment impact of petroleum, otherwise known, petroleum is used in oil, is often negative because it is toxic to almost all forms of life, and its extractions fuels climate change. Petroleum, commonly referred to as oil, is closely linked to virtually all aspects of present society, especially for transportation and heating, for both homes, for commercial and industrial activities. Although there is one type of petroleum that we use in our daily life, and in this kind of weather that we're having right now in our winter, it's freezing cold. I could use some Vaseline. There's petroleum in Vaseline. That is an example of petroleum that we use on our bodies. That doesn't affect us. It helps our skin get back to its natural texture. How is the environment impact. Oh, I already read that one. How important is the natural resource to the country of Canada? Why? Very important. Because the world would be nothing. The world would have nothing to run cars or to lubricate things. We use oil in our daily lives. Like I just gave you the example of Vaseline. Well, we use oil to build houses. Oil was used to polish this chair. Oil was used in the camera that I'm using to tape this video. Oil was used to make the machine run that had this piece of paper in it. If we didn't have oil, we wouldn't have paper or chairs or anything. We wouldn't have cameras. We wouldn't be able to polish things. Oil is very important. What are the benefits of using the resource oil? It has greater power compared to any other energy source. 1 cup of petroleum, otherwise known as oil, can be used to move a vehicle full of people for 10 minutes at high speed. It is easy to distribute and cheaper to transport. It can be used for many things, including detergents, fertilizers, pesticides, makeup, CD coatings, plasters, and that's all. Oil is easier to extract from the ground than coal. About 40% of our energy comes from oil. Oil-fired power stations can be very efficient. Large amounts of energy can be generated in one place using oil. It can also be done fairly cheaply. An oil-fueled power station can be built anywhere as long as the large amounts of oil can be transported to it. Okay, the next question is, what are the problems associated with using the resource? Well, that goes back to the environmental impact. I'm going to read the environmental impact again since it goes with this question. The environmental impact of petroleum is often negative because it is toxic to almost all forms of life, and its extraction fuels climate change. Petroleum, commonly referred to as oil, is closely linked to virtually all aspects of present society, especially for transportation and heating for both homes and for commercial and industrial activities. I'm going to read a paper that I should have read at the beginning of the video, but I'm going to read it now. I think it should be the ending of the story. Petroleum production in Canada is a major industry where it is important to the economy of North America. Canada is the 5th largest oil-producing country in the world. In 2008, it produced an average of 438,000 cubic meters per day. 2,750,000,000 BBL/D of crude oil, bitumen, and natural gas condensate. Of that amount, 45% was conventional crude oil, 49.5% was bitumen from oil sands, and 5.5% was condensate from natural gas wells. Most of Canadian petroleum production, approximately 283,000 cubic meters per day, is exported. Canada is the largest single source of oil imports in the United States. The petroleum industry in Canada is also referred to as the Canadian oil patch. The term refers especially to the upstream operations. 100 new wells are spudded in the province of Alberta alone. Canada is the 5th largest producer of natural gas and crude oil in the world, with extensive oil and natural gas reserves across the country. I'm going to read the history of Canadian petroleum. industry. The Canadian petroleum industry developed in parallel with the one of the United States. The first oil well in Canada was dug by hand rather than drilled in 1858 by James Miller Williams near his asphalt plant at Oil Springs, Ontario. At a depth of 20 meters, 66 foot, he struck oil. One year before Colonel Edwin Drake drilled the first oil well in the United States, William later went on to found the Canadian Oil Company, which qualified as the world's first largest integrated oil company. Petroleum production in Ontario expanded rapidly, and practically every significant producer became his own refiner. By 1864, 20 refineries were operating in Oil Springs and 7 in petroleum. Ontario. However, Ontario's status as an important oil producer did not last long. By 1880, Canada was a net importer of oil from the United States. Canada's unique geography, geology, resources, and patterns of settlement have been key factors in the history of Canada. The development of the petroleum sector helps illustrate how they have helped make the nation quite distinct from the United States. Canada's unique geography, geology, resources, and patterns. The potential of Alberta as an oil-producing province long went organized because it was quite different from American oil-producing regions. The first oil well in western Canada was drilled in southern Alberta in 1902, but did not produce for very long, and served to mislead geologists about the true nature of Alberta's subsurface geology. The Turner Valley oil field was discovered in 1914, and for a time was the biggest oil field in the British Empire. But again, it misled geologists about the nature of Alberta's geology. In Turner Valley, the mistakes oil companies made led to billions of dollars in damage to the oil field by gas flaring, which did not only burn billions of dollars worth of gas with no immediate market, but destroyed the field's gas drive that enabled the oil to be produced. The gas flares in Turner Valley were visible in the sky from Calgary, 75 kilometers, 50 miles away. As a result of the highly visible wastage, the Alberta government launched the vigorous political, legal attacks on the Canadian government and oil companies that continued until 1938, when the province set up Alberta Petroleum and National Gas Conservation Board and imposed strict conservation legislation. Now I'm going to skip ahead and I'm going to read the major players of the Canadian petroleum production. Encana Corporation, Canadian Natural Resources Limited, Husky Energy Incorporated, ConocoPhillips, Talisman Energy Incorporated, Devon Canada Corporation, Suncor Energy, Cenovus Energy. Thank you everybody for listening, and now I will read my resources. My resources are infoplease.com, wikipedia.com, whgbetc.com. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a good day.